What advice can you give all the podcasters out there that are looking to bring on co-hosts into their podcast?
First and foremost, I mean, you have to have a leader. If you have the right people that you vibe with, who have different views, different history, different background, it can make for some really fun conversation. Don't get into bed with somebody who you don't know. Don't get into bed with somebody that is literally somebody that you're just meeting off the internet.
Today we're joined by professional wrestler, musician, author, co-founder, and president of Hound Comics, professional podcaster, the one and only Brimstone himself. Brimstone, what's good?
What's going on, brother? First and foremost, I want to say finally, Brimstone has made it to After Hours Entrepreneur with my brother, Mark Savant. I am super psyched, super excited. You know, listen, I just finally got into Clubhouse, and I'm taking you, Mark. You are going to be my mentor on this ride, this journey through this audio thing that we call a Clubhouse, or is it the Treehouse? I'm not sure. I'm still getting used to it.
It's one and the same. And just for everyone that is watching or listening, we're actually recording the video live using Riverside FM. We're recording the audio live in Clubhouse. We are always trying new things. And we had a little bit of a hiccup getting in here, but now that we're in here, we're good. We're recording all over the place. So excited to get into the chat here because Brimstone, I got to say, one of the things that I admire most with great entrepreneurs is the ability to pivot. The ability to pivot, to keep up with the new trends. You've done that brilliantly over the past couple decades. So I got to ask you here, how did you actually make the pivot from professional wrestling to professional podcasting? How'd you make that happen?
Well, here's the thing, you know, pro wrestling, you know, obviously a lot of pro wrestling is not just in the ring. A lot of it is being able to speak on the stick. And as long as you can talk, that's half the battle. Matter of fact, sometimes that's the entire battle because a lot of people can't speak on the mic and they can't really promote themselves. They can't really do what needs to really get done in order to kind of excel. I happen to be, I would like to say or like to think that I'm decent on the microphone. And, you know, I try to bring that energy. Now, there was a huge gap now between pro wrestling and podcasting. Although I have been, you know, one of the guys that has always been open to, you know, doing interviews with podcasters over the years. So I was familiar with it. I did, you know, podcast interviews. I did, you know, internet radio interviews, you know, where a lot of the other celebs were doing just like, you know, radio. If it was AM, FM, terrestrial, that was it. Or television. And they didn't want to know anything about podcasts and so forth. So I was always happy to eat those up because one, it's practice. Two, you're meeting great people, great hosts. And three, it's a very viable source of potential candidates that might follow you back. And I've always thought about it, and to take a step sideways, is the fact that, you know, I don't care if you have one follower or 1 million followers. The fact is if I can do something with you and I get one person who enjoys what I have to say and follows me back, even if it's just the host, I've done my job. So, you know, essentially, you know, doing these podcasts over the years has been a wonderful thing for myself. And it's helped me be really authentic because when other people weren't doing it, I was. So that being said, you know, my pivot out of pro wrestling was actually first into comics. And I decided, what can I do with the Brimstone character? Taking it out of the ring and doing something else with it. So the next, you know, logical step was I was thinking, well, you know, pro wrestlers are larger than life characters. We're technically superheroes, right? So what would happen if we took these superheroes and put them, you know, out of the ring? Well, it would be a comic book. So I decided, why not start a comic book and, you know, build it based off of the Brimstone brand in the ring. So, you know, what we did was, you know, I did that. I did the company. Over the years, we built out Hound Comics Inc., Hound Entertainment Group as a corporation. And, you know, I'm kind of speeding up the story, obviously, for time's sake. But what happened was I had 2 interns that started working for me that now later on have become my partners. And what do you call it? They had a history in radio and podcasting. So it was just a logical thing. I said, you know, hey, are you guys interested in maybe doing a show together? Because I had tried speaking to the local networks that have all interviewed me hundreds of times in the past. And I said, look, I have an idea for a show. I'd love to do something with you guys. And, you know, you already have worked with me. We have a relationship. Maybe we could do something here. And crickets, brother. I heard crickets. So I was saying, all right, well, no problem. I'll do it for myself. I got all high on my horse. I started trying to figure things out. I bought the name, the Grindhouse Radio. Why the Grindhouse Radio? Was, you know, it's Brimstone is always grinding. I'm always working hard. I'm trying to, you know, do as much as I possibly can. So the House of Grindhouse. And we call it, like I said, fast forward. Nothing happened until I had these two interns. We decided, let's sit down, put a microphone in the center of a desk. We were on a main road here on Long Island in New York. All you heard was cars whizzing by. We had no, you know, we didn't have a studio, not like now, you know, and we had that and a laptop. We sat down for about an hour, and I said, this can work.
So
I really believe.
I'd like to know a little, I want to lean into this a little bit more, because this is back in about 2015 or so, right?
Yep.
You've built up
more or less.
You built up your personal brand. You're leveraging that personal brand to launch these different businesses, like the comic book company and some of the other things that you were doing at that time. What was it about that first recording where you said, we've got something here, this can work? What was it about that first recording?
You could tell, Mark. You could tell when something's gonna work and when something's not gonna work. Usually right off the bat, you get an inkling. I've been in entertainment for so long. I started when I was 5. I was on Sesame Street and Romper Room. I think you may or may not know that, but I started in entertainment early, and I was already through the ringer with music and musicians and partners, and you know, and you know, and wrestling and so forth. You know, when we got behind the mics together, the conversation itself, it was magic. We were able to work off each other. We worked well with each other. We bounced off each other very well. And I said, we've got something here. And at the time, you know, we just had banter in the office. You know, when I was in town, then I wasn't touring, we'd have banter. When I take them out on the road with me, we'd have cool, fun banter. And, you know, so when we first sat behind that microphone, didn't matter what was going on around us, the world stopped and we were in this zone. And when you're in that zone, you know you're in the zone. And that goes for anything, you know?
So was there a certain point during this process where you're saying like, okay, we've got something, this is hot, people are enjoying it, people are listening to it. Was there a certain point where you said, okay, now I'm going to start reaching out and start collaborating? Because you have a collaboration right now with iHeartRadio, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so when was the right time for you, Brimstone, when you said, okay, now it's time to actually start reaching out and collaborating with these different brands and really taking this thing to the next level?
Funny enough, iHeart came to us. We were also approached by CBS. We were in bed with Google for a while, which I could talk about either now or another time. But I was NDA'd then. I could talk about it now. So everything has to be right. When I put out any product, whether it's my food products, whether it's the comics, whether it's content, I want to make sure that it's quality. Quality comes first. And before I started dealing with anybody, I didn't want to bring on any guests yet, even though, to be honest with you, before we even had one show out, I had friends of mine like Stan Lee, Nichelle Nichols, people like that doing drops for me. Hey, this is Stan Lee, and you're listening to my pal Brimstone on the Grindhouse Radio. You know, I had people like that would put their name out there because I have that reputation, and it helped with us building our following. But you know, that being said, I didn't want to have a guest on the show yet till we knew what we were doing. I didn't want to bring on any sponsors or advertisers until I knew that what we had to offer was going to be valuable to them. Then I was able to take everything and kind of build it after that. So it took about I guess 8 months, maybe into the first year, where we moved out of the office and we moved into a studio. Actually, at Connecticut School of Broadcasting, because two of my people came from CSB, so we were able to utilize the studio for a little while while we were working on getting our own. And you know, it was there where we actually got the call from iHeart, and you know, we made the move to iHeart, and with that, we changed from the 1 hour deal to 2 hours, and the rest is history, man. And not until about 8 months after that did I make a decision to decide, hey, it's time to start getting some sponsors and advertisers, because then I knew that the numbers were coming in.
Yeah.
I knew that we were, I was able to start bringing on friends. I mean, hell, the first couple of people that came on air with us was my friend Jessica from Pussycat Dolls, Jay Sutta, and Michael Zapsik from Comic Book Men. So and then the list goes on. So it was all the right. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever watch Powerpuff Girls. I don't know if you have kids or if you used to watch Powerpuff Girls, but it's like that little that sugar and spice and everything nice that you kind of threw into that little pot, let it boil, and here we are. We've got something special. And that's since then, I mean, it's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, and now one funny thing about it is, and I have to throw that little bit of a jab in there. All those radio stations that decided not to pick up the show, we now have beat them 4 years in a row here on Long Island as best radio station on Long Island. 4 years straight. We beat all of them. And we are a 2-hour podcast once a week. Thank you.
That is
a virtual drop.
That is what is up, man, because there are going to be people that doubt you and question every single thing that you do along the way. I've had the same experience, but I think that regardless, all the after hours entrepreneurs understand there's a lot of people that are going to doubt and question whether it's your mom, your aunt, your uncle, your husband, your wife, your dog, your cat. My dog is definitely a doubter, but forget them. Forget them. And I think that surrounding yourself with the right people is really, really important. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, which kind of segues me, Brimstone, into my next question. Right now, you've got several co-hosts that are working with you on the show. Again, we're talking about Grindhouse Radio, which gets over 3.5 million weekly listeners, just an immensely successful radio show. Very, very, very successful. Do you find it challenging to work with co-hosts? Because as a podcaster, I find that sometimes listening to a show that has multiple hosts can be complicated. What advice can you give all the podcasters out there that are looking to bring on co-hosts into their podcast?
First and foremost, I mean, you have to have a leader. As much as we try to all play equally here in the ball pit. I'm the leader. I've been around. I'm the kind of like the Kevin Smith to the to the View Askew people. I'm the Brimstone is the leader of Grindhouse Radio, and there is a hierarchy in terms of that. But when you're listening to our show, I do a lot of the leading, and but my co-hosts are just as able to handle it as I am, and they've learned well over the years, and they have their own style and their own personalities. My advice to anybody who's looking to take on a partner, because again, it is also easier when you're working with multiple people because it's less that you have to do on your own. I wouldn't be able to do as much as I do without, a Mr. Greer, Tom Greer, and other people that do engineer work. Alex DePonte, which is our lead engineer, is unbelievable. He also does all the engineering from my voice work. So like guys like that, I can't do engineering, but I sure as hell can talk. Yeah. And I sure as hell know how to network. I know how to social media. I know how to bring on, the right people because I've been in the industry for that long. So, with the 3 of us, I mean, every so often you might hear have us going, talking over each other a tiny little bit. It happens. It's just the name of the game, but it's just like listening to any other morning show. If you have the right people that you vibe with, who have different views, different history, different background, it can make for some really fun conversation. But my thought is you shouldn't necessarily get into it with somebody. Don't get into bed with somebody who you don't know. Don't get into bed with somebody that is literally somebody that you're just meeting off the internet. Why? You don't know enough about them. You don't know if your personalities are going to mesh, and you also don't know, if they're going to give you, you know what I'm saying? And that's a big problem. Be careful of the dogs you lie with because you never know what's going to be.
Well, I've heard.
I hope that answers.
Well, it does, and I've heard, and I think this makes a lot of sense. That probably the most important thing that you have with a co-host is having the same vision. Where do you want the show to go, right? Because if you have the same vision, you can always kind of pivot and make adjustments along the way. And quite frankly, Brimstone, like when we talk about the ability to pivot, I would really credit a lot of your success to being able to build your personal brand. right? You leverage the personal brand to, get on stages, to launch these different businesses, to get great guests on your show, to give you a shout out like Stan Lee. I mean, that's nuts, right? So you've been through a lot, right? Over the past 10, 20 years. How is personal branding different now in the world of social media than it is before social media? How has personal branding evolved?
Personal branding has gotten so different now, where you kind of got to be everywhere possible in order to kind of get your name and face out there. And the fact of the matter is, you had to do the same thing then. There were just less outlets. So it's kind of like, all right, well, I mean, I go back a long way. So for the people who are old enough who are listening and tuning in, essentially, I came from, I'm 46 now. We didn't have computers, you know what I mean, until the Commodore 64 came out. And we didn't have a thing called internet until AOL came out. And trust me, we used to have a little disc that you had to put into the computer and then run AOL there through a phone line. And so it was harder for us back when to market ourselves and to brand ourselves. But you always found a way to do it. And the way we did it then, the way I did it, especially in the pro wrestling days, is I used to use in the libraries, there was a thing called a microfiche, and I would go in there and utilize the microfiche in the library to figure out where the territories and who was where, because I couldn't get all the magazines. I didn't know who was where and what. And I learned, what I mean? I learned, and that's how I was able to reach out to people and send tapes or send, mail to, and, because again, then we started getting a little bit of internet, and then you had AOL and instant messenger. So you were able to go a little bit further, and, MySpace, and, MySpace, you were able to kind of brand your area. And then the same thing with Facebook. And then it just built out from there. So branding then was, it was a harder deal, simply because you had to really hit the right areas, whether it's magazine people, getting written up in magazines and publications, getting on television somehow, doing the right kind of guerrilla marketing. Like I used to go and hand flyers out to people, you know what I mean? Face to face. Here, check this out. Here, check. And I did that for my bands. So guess what I did? I did it when I opened up my pro wrestling school too. I went to the mall that was closest to the school, and everybody that would walk by with a pro wrestling shirt on, here's it for my school. Here, if you're interested in learning, here. And I just handed them out. And that's marketing, guerrilla marketing 101. If you can't do it online, do it in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, so I'm just kind of curious, Brim. Yeah. So if you were just starting out and trying to get the ball rolling and trying to build up steam, do you think that those guerrilla marketing type of tactics are still viable for people trying to grow their podcast?
Yep. Absolutely. I think that, listen, there is nothing out there quite like guerrilla marketing. Social media is wonderful. It's amazing. And there's ways to touch people all around the world. But, when you're starting out, there's no better way than to sit and hit local. I hit local, You know what I mean? I pushed on local first. And I did it for a reason, because I wanted that best radio station on Long Island. You know what I mean? That was my goal. I knew that, some of the sponsors first and foremost would start locally rather than national or international. Now we deal with like Kikkoman and Mane and Tail and 7-Eleven, Wendy's, and, those are my sponsors, advertisers, and influencing deals that I have now. But, like then, we had to, you're starting small, you're building up and making it happen. So why not go into, local places, put up a flyer that says, hey, check me out. This is the show. This is what it's about. Here we are. It's the same concept as social media, except, you're handing it to people, or they're seeing it as they're walking in and out of a supermarket or walking in and out of a general store. Well, they're not called general stores anymore, but you get my gist. So, if you're an type of podcast, well, why not go into office buildings that may have different businesses that are, all entrepreneurial businesses? Pass out a flyer. You might be interested in this. And if you're into taking on guests, maybe your CEO or president or CEO would like to come on our show. Check us out. Now, not only are you getting people that are listening to you, all right, but you have people that want to be guests on the show, and who might have people that might want to listen to you. So it all works together. That's real, true guerrilla marketing. And I did it with Grindhouse too. I went around and I put flyers up, and you're seeing me where people know me in the area. They know I'm here. Going and doing this stuff, and they go, "Well, why would you do that?" I said, "Because I'm no better than anybody else. I should be doing this too." And here it is. Here, take a flyer. So that's how you make.
And there's something powerful. Yeah, there's something powerful about that hand-to-hand combat. Actually, like being with someone in the same space, right? And in this virtual world, especially post-COVID, everyone's kind of gotten away from that. We're thinking about, okay, I'm not going to actually go and shake someone's hand and hear them and smell them and be in that same space. Yeah. Hopefully, don't smell them too hard. You know what I mean? But humans, we do have these pheromones and stuff going on there. But we've kind of, I think, as a human race, gotten away from that hand-to-hand combat, from that seeing, smelling, touching. I'm just wondering, do you feel the difference now? Because in your studio there with your few people, do you find like a different vibe with your coworkers and your colleagues and co-hosts there versus when you're doing it virtually? Does it feel different? Does it sound different? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hated doing everything virtual. So when we went into COVID, we were unprepared, just like everybody else. And, we're endorsed by Bear Dynamic and Zoom, North America. And so we've got all the luxury of having the best mics and the, best, products and so forth. But we weren't ready for it because we have our own studios. So why would we need to be doing this stuff at home? So we had our travel stuff. But the travel equipment wasn't like a 1, 2, 3, easy. Let's pop it into the computer, like the Fox or anything else that Bayer does. So that being said, we had to think quick, and everything shut down, and we wound up getting other microphones just to use at home. And when I tell you, the first time and the first couple of times we were doing Zoom and things like that, not Zoom North America, Zoom, the video chat thing. At the end of the day, I hated it. I hated every second of it. It's a different vibe. And I didn't like it. Now, you and I doing stuff where me seeing you face to face and working with you, that's easy. That works. Grindhouse Radio as a show is built on energy. It's built on the energy in the room. Yeah. So when we're together, nothing's going to stop us. It's going to come out. We can work off each other. I work very, very much so off of body language, off of movements, off expression. And for me, that meant everything. Was I able to do Zoom? Sure. But you could certainly tell the difference between the shows. In studio, forget about it. It's a completely different animal. Yeah. And a sound is a big thing for me. And because again, like I said, everything that goes out has to be quality. So essentially in studio, you have this perfect sound. Everything's produced to the 9. You know what I mean? And now you're going onto Zoom, and it's like, all right, well, things cut in and out or something, and you're going, oh no, what do we do? And then, having guests on, people at that point, they didn't want to necessarily do video, which we weren't putting the video out. But they just, so they reluctantly did Zoom because people was, like I said, they were steering clear of doing Zoom. So what I tried doing was booking during that time some of my closer friends, who I knew would get on with me, like a Sean Schemmel, who's Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Sean came on, and it was a pleasure to get on because we haven't seen each other because the world closed down. Right. So, we were sitting and having our conversation. Charles Martinet, who's a very dear friend of mine, he's the voice for Mario and Luigi for Nintendo. And so him and I, we, and obviously with the others, we went back and forth and just had a pleasant, amazing conversation. Marilyn Gigliotti from Clerks, the same thing. So, Veronica Taylor, Ash Ketchum from Pokemon, so these are the people that adopted Zoom, early, and were okay with doing, this type of stuff, before it was, you know what I mean? Like
the standard.
It's like, well, now you're stuck doing it. So if you don't want to do it, then you ain't going to go anywhere, but, so yeah, so these people were on there, and I was able to get them to come on because it was new for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually curious.
Different show.
Yeah, I'm curious, Brim. Like, we've talked about a ton of amazing people that you've collaborated with and been with in the studio. It's exhausting trying to keep up with all these relationships, but it's so important. Do you have any sort of methodology or any sort of way of keeping in touch and keeping these relationships alive? Because if you don't talk to someone for a long time, it seems like the relationships can kind of dry out. Do you have any methodology?
The cool thing about in the entertainment world, a lot of us, especially when you're out there and you're hustling, we're all in the same situation, so we're very understanding with time lapses and time gaps, because we're all in the same boat. They might be on set 1 week or 1 month. I might be on set for a different week and a different month, and things just don't align. Sometimes we're on the same, sometimes we're on the same tour trail. Sometimes we're not in the same tour trail. So there's a lot of different things that go into that. I'm 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 able to sit and I'm very real with. I'm very authentic. I'll text people, and just to check up on them. I'll go to their social media. I'll make sure to like their stuff.
Yep.
They come back. They like my stuff. We stay in tune with each other, which is always a beautiful thing. And during COVID, it was just a little more difficult than everything else, because while we're in the real world, and everybody is able to kind of see each other, we see each other on tour, we see each other on set. We you know what I mean? It's a different animal. We could go break bread. I'm touring already, so maybe you're not on. Going to be in Austin this week. Let's meet up for dinner. You know what I mean? And so I'm a real friend to these people. You know what I mean? So the people that I deal with, just like with you, Mark. I said, hey, we're going to talk. Boom. Let's follow here. Let's do this. Let's do this. And now, let's get on and let's continue a relationship. And in entertainment, a lot of people are not authentic, and they don't have authentic people around them. So they're afraid to be authentic, because it's a dog eat dog world, and everybody's wearing milk-bone underwear. It's simply what it comes down to. And these people are not necessarily quick to trust. I'm not quick to trust. But I want to always put my best. So my methodology is to always be real and authentic. I try to check in on people, especially in my closer relationships. I'll try to send a text here and there, or a social media message, or just drop a something somewhere, just to let them know I'm thinking of them. And normally they will do the same. You can't always be on top of thousands of people. You can't do it. It's not possible. Social media is good for that, because you can kind of stay connected, even though you're not verbally, visually seeing each other or verbally having a conversation. You can still be connected. But nothing beats person to person, connection.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, 100%. It's just going to be. It's going to be really interesting to see the way that things continue to evolve. Are we going to have virtual reality, augmented reality? There's going to be some really kind of cool ways that technology is going to change the way that we communicate as human beings. So I'm excited to see the way that plays out. Well, listen, everybody, we are talking to Brimstone. You can check him out at therealbrimstone.com. You can listen to his top rated podcast, thegrindhouseradio.com. Over 3.5 million weekly listeners. So definitely want to check it out. And Brim, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Before I let you go, we got to get into the overrated, underrated section. All right. Overrated, underrated, get ready. Pull up that milk bone underwear that we've been talking about, and let's go. Let's go. So overrated, underrated pizza.
Underrated.
I mean, I like pizza quite a bit. How much more can I possibly like pizza?
You can like pizza a lot more. I do a lot in the foodie world also. I have a thing called a crew oven at home. It's a wood burning oven. Oof. Doing it at home and doing it, let me tell you, it is ridiculous. You can do better. Trust me. Trust me.
I dig it. Next time I'm in Long Island, I'm going to have to check out the wood oven. Overrated, underrated, YouTube.
Overrated.
Okay. Overrated, underrated, Twitter.
Underrated. I think people underrate Twitter. I think you could do a lot with Twitter if you do it, well. And the problem with Twitter is you have to really be on it in order to make a big splash, but you sure as hell can.
Do that. I like that explanation. I'm with you there. Overrated, underrated, The Rock.
Wow. He's not overrated and he's not underrated. I think he's just right, man. He's right. Listen, if everybody could have a career like Rocky, I mean, his father and I were very friendly, very good friends, and what do you call it? Yeah, I mean, I watched his career launch, so I have nothing bad to say about him. I'm right in the middle there. He can't. He's right where he's supposed to be.
Okay, I mean, yeah. When we talk about authenticity, he strikes me as being a very authentic guy. I feel like what you see on screen is exactly what you'd get in real life with him.
100%. Yeah.
Overrated, underrated, Clubhouse.
Well, I just got here, and I think it is underrated as of right now because people don't understand what goes on here and how it can help, push your business forward.
Sure. We're definitely trying some new things here on Clubhouse. And last, overrated, underrated, radio.
Overrated, to be completely honest. You want me to give you an explanation? I can.
Yeah. So give me a quick explanation. I'd like to hear from you.
Quick explanation. I love radio. Radio gave me a lot of legs over the years, and it's very valuable. Don't get me wrong. However, it's one and done. Radio now is taking podcasting to the next level because now they know that they need to stay with the times. They need to podcast as well. So now they're taking their shows and they're making them podcast friendly as well. Also, you don't really get to know the hosts. You don't get to know the personalities because they have small segments of time that they get to speak. They are also given a you have a template of what you're allowed to play. So, whatever 10 songs they're getting paid for, those are the 10 songs you're going to be, spinning for the next however long. So, and in terms of advertising and sponsorships, you're at the end of the day, you're throwing money away. It's very, very high priced, and you're not getting anywhere near the value that you think you're going to be getting. You'd be better off doing a niche podcast or a show that is, really believes in the product and you put it out there in the best way.
Well said. Well said. I'm 100% on board. The internet, the ability to choose exactly what you listen to, very, very powerful. Final question here for you, Brimstone. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what would you say?
Watch out for those people that are going to give you fleas, brother. Just stay clear of them because there's always bad people out there and they're always looking to take advantage of it.
Brimstone said it. I agree with it. Brim, stay awesome, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.